My name is Noah Schultz. I'm one of the student directors of Patriot Pantry. We are the on-campus food pantry, and we help those in the Mason community who identify as food or home insecure with items like toiletries, school supplies, hygiene products, gift cards to Giant, meal vouchers to any on-campus dining hall, and anything else that can aid in their success. Not really go from like super business experience to having a lot of like interactions with donors and students, like getting used to having those difficult conversations and doing the research and presenting information and going to speak at events, and just learning all that has been like a good experience. Donor relations and retention and acquisition is always challenging. We don't get any support from the university to do it, so it's just me and the other student director have to like do all of the acquisition and like retention plans, see what we can do, like look at metrics and data to say, okay, like, what things can we do to make sure that donors keep donating after the first few donations.
It's all you guys?
It's all of us, yeah. And so when we first started, like 3 years ago, it was really hard because we're like, we don't know what we're doing. We've never had this type of position. So we were just like taking shots in the dark to see what worked and what didn't. And so like now we have it down a lot better, and we sort of know like the do's and don'ts and like how to make sure that we keep the donors involved and see why, like what their interest in donating is, and like how we can find a way to make sure like their interests are being fully explored and they feel like they're getting something out of the donation other than just being like, oh, like I know that I'm helping someone. Like make sure that they have like a tangible benefit from doing it.
That's really so. Yeah, just to begin, kind of, what's your personal involvement like?
So should I talk about like from when I started running it 3 years ago, or like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you want to talk about.
So I started volunteering my sophomore year. I'm a senior now, but so like two and a half, 3 years ago. And so the person in charge at the time was graduating that December, so the end of that semester. And so when she left, she was like, hey, like if you and Gary Hooker, he's the other student director, she was like, if you two want to run it when I graduate, like, I'll train you guys, I'll show you what you need to do. And so we said yes. And so we've been running for the past 3 years. And so when we first started as student directors, we were under just University Life Central on the 4th floor in Sub 1. And then we transitioned to Brent Erickson, who is the assistant. He's the director of student conduct. So we were with him for a year. And then we transferred to student support and advocacy. We've been for the past 2 years. And our supervisor is John Sachetti, who is the assistant director of SSAC. And so it's been a good like growing opportunity to like not really go from like super business experience to having a lot of like interactions with donors and students, like getting used to having those difficult conversations and doing the research and presenting information and going to speak at events, and just learning all that has been like a good experience.
That's awesome. Just a side note, has this influenced you in any of the type of work you want to do as a profession?
Not at all. I love nonprofit work, but just for the area, the pay is not something that's like, you can't live off of the side that nonprofits pay in this area. Maybe elsewhere for sure. But like, I'll probably always be involved in like volunteerism or like nonprofit efforts. I work with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation a lot because I'm a type 1 diabetic. And so I interned with them last summer, but since then I'll always help them whenever they have their events, go out and help. So they're still good causes and it's still a nice thing to do, but I don't think I see myself doing it for money necessarily.
For the monetary part, that's really great though that you're able to take part of this. But in terms of just the work that goes into it, in terms of like the donor relations, and I know that deals with like fiscal money and actual products. Can you go into a little bit more about that? You can talk about your experience or students or just kind of anything that comes to mind, really.
Yeah, so donor relations and retention and acquisition is always challenging. We don't get any support from the university to do it, So it's just me and the other student director have to like do all of the acquisition and like retention plans, see what we can do, like look at metrics and data to say, okay, like what things can we do to make sure that donors keep donating after their first few donations.
It's all you guys?
It's all of us, yeah. And so when we first started, like 3 years ago, it was really, really hard. Like, we don't know what we're doing. We've never had this type of position. So we were just like taking shots in the dark to see what worked and what didn't. And so like now, we have it down a lot better, and we sort of know like the do's and don'ts and like how to make sure that we keep the donors involved and see why, like what their interest in donating is, and like how we can find a way to make sure like their interests are being fully explored and they feel like they're getting something out of the donation other than just being like, oh, like I know that I'm helping someone. Like make sure that they have like a tangible benefit from doing it.
That's really unfortunate that the school doesn't help. Are other universities supportive of student efforts? Because this is, poverty and homelessness and financial, support is big in a lot of colleges that oftentimes gets really looked over.
Yeah, I think our problem with the structural university support is the pantry has been like a mainly student effort, and like I think this semester and this whole year altogether, we've seen a lot more support from the university in terms of like asking for data and seeing what numbers we have and trying to like get more stake in it, because they know that Gary and I are both graduating, and it's like not that they didn't acknowledge the work that we were doing before, but now that they know, oh, they're leaving, that means like some other people have to come in and be trained and learn how to do that. And they sort of need to quantify like how the structure of the pantry is going to look once we leave, because they haven't had to worry about that this whole time. And so like other universities in the area, like VCU, they give them like fresh foods, and like they make fresh meals like as soon as they walk in. They have a lot more options than we do. But their pantry's also been up for like 10 years or something like that. And so we're still kind of, I think it's like almost our 5th year up and running, but it's really only our 2nd year in terms of having like our own structured place on campus that's like officially ours. And so hopefully moving forward, we'll see the support increase. Because there's always going to be a need that needs to be there. So it just time will tell.
Do you think that when you and the other student director leave, that the university will carry that through, or do you think they'll kind of let it dwindle? And you can be totally realistic.
Yeah. I think it will dwindle a bit. I've been spending a lot of time this semester like creating written documents for them to use. So we have like a standard operating procedure. It's like a 32-page document that I spent writing this whole semester, like is as detailed as possible of like everything that we do step by step, how to do it, how to do the data, how to interact with the students, how to interact with the donors, how to interact with the volunteers, how to create the schedules, how to like do anything you can think of for the pantry. So structurally, whoever they hired should have a good idea of how to do it, because if they just read through that, it's a long document, but at the same time, like you read through it, you'll know exactly what you need to do. But I mean, in terms of passion, I think that's one of my biggest fears. Like Gary and I have been with it since it was like in 4 different supply closets, and so now that we have like our own official space and like we're recognized by the university and like we're a 501c3 organization under the university, it's like, okay, we've gotten it this far.
Kill it.
Once we leave, like what is it going to look like? And everyone has said like, oh no, like we're doing great things for the pantry, like it's gonna keep on continuing, it's gonna keep on going strong, but no one's saying like what exactly that is. There's like, oh, we have good things in store for the pantry. I'm like, what is that? And they're like, we just have good things in store. Just know that. And I'm like, okay, cool.
That is unfortunate, really, because it's hard when you work towards something for so long. And like you said, you've been through different locations in administration, higher ups in a sense, and then you're like, well, all right, this is kind of my baby. And a lot of people rely on it too. In terms of your donations and your partners, can you just talk to me a little bit about who they are, and then do they actually have an effect on students, and is it used? Because I think from the outside I don't know if a lot of students enter the pantry, and I know probably some of it is sensitive information that you're like, oh yeah, the student John blah blah, comes twice a week, sort of thing.
So what's the question?
Can you just tell me about, one, who your partners are, kind of, and then what they give you all, and then how that plays a role into students.
So
I think it's useful or not.
Yeah. So our partners, we've transitioned to more individual donors or community-based donors than corporations, just because it is sort of harder to get retention from corporations, because they usually have multiple people who are like, hey, like we're in need of XYZ. And so like with our partnership for Giant example, we had where they gave us the $5,000 of in-kind donations, and so that was in the form of $50 gift cards. We gave it to the students, and then once that ran out, we had asked them for another $5,000, which they sent out, and then we were also doing monthly pickups from them. And I think they honestly probably just got annoyed with us asking for a lot of stuff from them, which is totally fair. And so we're not allowed to drive places because we are part-time employees technically. And so if we were to get into an accident picking up donations for the pantry, it's a liability. And so the school's like, the university's like, yeah, no, like you guys can't drive to pick up stuff. And so convincing like organizations or like businesses like bring donations from their work to us usually doesn't play out well, just because what's their incentive is kind of going out of their way to do it. If we go and pick it up, it's not that bad because they don't have to do anything. But convincing like well-known established retailers or chains or anything to be like, yeah, we'll commit to donating X amount a month and bring them to you, it's not something that's super feasible. But usually we have a lot of donors who will be like, they're an alumni or they have a kid who goes to Mason. We have one lady, Mary Crowder, her whole neighborhood in Kings Park West. They do monthly donations every single month, and so they all just bring the donations to our house. And we always get like 150 to 200 pounds donations a month from them. Food. Yeah, food, toiletries, hygiene products. And then we have our new like official, like first official partner like in writing is Arise Campus Ministry. And so
can you say that's Horizon?
Arise. Yeah, ARISE Campus Ministry. Yeah, and our point of contact in their org group coalition thing is Andrew Enns, ANDREW ENSC. Yeah. And so he's like the lead pastor, and he's oversees like 200 churches in the area. And so anytime we need anything, I'll shoot him a text, or I'll email him, or I'll call him. I'll be like, hey, like the students are looking for protein items. Here's like the list of things I'm sending through email right now. Just take a look and just like put it on your listservs, or the next time you're speaking at church, like let them know, hey, the pantry's looking for this. And so usually whenever we ask, we get like hundreds of pounds of stuff from them within like a week or two.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. You said a week or two and like 100 pounds. Now, with the donations given, how often do students come in to use the pantry? And is there a way of tracking? That sounds bad.
No, I get what you're saying. Are we tracking the appointments?
Who actually really needs it, opposed to like just someone, I don't know, if someone just comes and be like, oh man, free soup.
Yeah. So what's the best way to answer that question? So everyone goes through an intake appointment for the first time they come to the pantry. And so we have them fill out a document. I can send you the document if you want. I don't have it on me, but like when I go to the pantry tomorrow, I can send it to you. And so we have them fill out a document. It's 2 pages and just has like demographic information, and then sort of like what the pantry can do for them, what their situation is. If they want to go into detail, they can. Do they receive like financial support from their guardians or parents? Are they working? And so we also have that conversation with them before we give them the sheets, just have it written like and stored in our data. But so we usually ask like, what can the pantry do for them? And they're like, oh, so I have like 5 siblings, and like my parents, we've never had that much money, and I don't want my parents spending their money on me, so like I'm just trying to barely get by with as much as I can. But sometimes I skip meals because I don't have that much money on me, and there's nothing I can do because I don't want to burden my parents. Sometimes we'll have people like, hey, like I came out as gay, trans, bi, queer, any of the different sexualities, and their parents kicked me out of the house.
No, it didn't. Okay, I would have been. I have different notes.
No, you're fine.
So sad.
And so, when those circumstances come up, it's like they have like no structural support from their parents, their guardians, and so they're on their own. And like in the area, I think data I looked at, you need to have you need to make like $24 an hour like to just pay rent and stuff on your own. And like most jobs don't even pay nearly that much in this area. So a lot of students find themselves in a position where like they have to skip meals, they want to like pay rent. And so then that's where the Patriot comes in.
That's great. And then do students, are they typically nervous and kind of embarrassed when they come in for the first time, for example? Because I know like they don't know who you both are, and I'm sure it's
I think it varies. We have it sometimes where they'll be very apprehensive, which is totally understandable. A lot of times they're definitely nervous, but usually once they meet me and the other student director, they get a good idea. Like, oh, like this is fine. Like they're just same people as us. Maybe not same circumstances, but like in terms of like they're college students, we're college students. Like at the end of the day, like that's really all that matters. And so we try to make sure that they don't feel like there's a power dynamic at all. It's like we're usually dressed in there super casual, playing regular music, just listening to stuff, having a good time. Because we want to make sure that they feel like, yes, we are a support system for them, but at the same time, like we don't want them to feel like they're just like a number on a list to us. Like, so most of them we have like pretty built relationships with them. Like we know a lot about them. We share our successes, they share their successes, and so it's more of like we try to build relationships with them outside of their circumstances. Because they are people just like us. They might just have a bit more on their plate than everyone else. But usually the nervousness goes away. Sometimes intake will be really dry, and the students will be like, oh, so like, what page do you feel like I need help? I'm like, oh, okay, like, can you elaborate? And like, oh, yeah, I'm just going through a hard time. I'm like, oh, like, what do you mean when you say hard time? Like, oh, like, I don't really want to talk about it. I'm like, all right, well, can you, like, explain a teeny tiny bit? And it's not to pry, but just to, like, we've had it in the past where someone was like, I don't want to go to the dining halls, so I want to use the pantry. And I was like, oh, so you have a meal plan, right? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, so do you not have, like, can you not eat the food there? Or, like, do you not have money to go elsewhere? And she's like, oh, no, like, I'm a pescatarian, and I don't like their fish there, so I want to go get fish here. And I was like, okay, but you have money, right? She's like, oh, I have money, I just want to go to the store. And I was like, that's not what the pantry is for. I was like, and so, like, we let her take something that one time that she came back. It's like, you're already here, so you might as well. But, like, after this, like, you can literally, if you want to go to the store, you can literally just take a shuttle to the store. There's options to get around being pescatarian. But, like, for the most part, that's the only case I can think of in the past, like, 3 years that anyone who's actually come by that doesn't need it. A lot of times it probably does kick in. So, like, if we have someone who's, like, a president of a club or an RA, or they're active just in the Mason community, and they come by for an appointment, they'll usually come by for their intake and maybe, like, one or two other appointments. And then sometimes they'll just stop coming out of nowhere. Like, yeah, like, I just felt embarrassed, like, uncomfortable that I was doing this resource, and, like, you know, like, I have this status on campus, and that sort of makes me, like, feel like I don't want people to know that I'm doing this side of stuff, which is totally understandable. And Gary and I always ask, after the intake form, like, we're like, hey, like, if we see you on campus, do you want us to talk to you? Or, like, pretend we don't know you? Just because sometimes people might assume, like, oh, if no one here talking to them, they might know through the pantry. And so we try to be mindful of, like, the external implications that, like, using the pantry could have on them. And just making sure that, like, they are, like, our priority, that we're doing everything we can to service them.
Wow, and it's the same thing too. If you're not in that field, you're not part of that group, you don't think about these questions. I didn't even think about, hey, when we're outside of this room, I'm like, I know you're not. That's something that is sensitive, and you've been doing it for a while, so you know to ask those questions.
Yeah, know the ropes.
So, on a week, how many people come to the food, would you say, visit? Because I guess it does. You said you get like a lot of donations, but then I guess it can go pretty quickly. Yeah.
So I think on average we maybe like 15 to like 20, maybe like 15 to 30 students. I know that's a really broad average.
No, it's not.
But yeah, it just depends. It's been really slow after spring break. Like we maybe had like 15 students a week, but then sometimes we'll have like 9 appointments every single day. So.
Oh, you have to make an appointment?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have if I can send you the link to that too. But so we have a scheduling app, and it just makes it easier for us because we'll have the students who make their appointment, and then like volunteers who want to come by and volunteer, and then donors who want to do donation drop-offs, and then interviews, and then meetings for partnerships. And so in the past, we used to just write it down by hand, like, all right, so we have this happening then, that happening then, this happening then. And it was just, we got our calendar just blowing up every like 2 seconds, and it was not effective. So now we have a wonderful website that just does it all for us, and we just get to see, okay, everyone booked their appointment for this time, that time, and it's just easy. But yeah, so it fluctuates. And then the amount of pounds we're allowed to take is 25.2 pounds a week.
Wait, 25.2?
Yeah, 25.2.
It's so precise.
Yeah, so Feeding America did a study. Their rate is probably outdated a little bit because it's in like 2013. But it was like, on average, a person eats like 3.8 pounds of food a day. And so multiply that times 7, it gets you like 25.2.
Is it 3 point how much?
3.8. I don't know the exact number. It's 3 point something.
3.8.
I was really looking at
a day.
Yeah, and so you just 3.8 times 7, 25.2. Whatever. Just divide 25.2 by 7, and that's the amount of food people eat a day.
That's amazing.
And we give them a bit of wiggle room in that as well, because we don't only provide them like non-perishables. We also provide them the toiletries, the hygiene products, the school supplies. And so we're looking at a better way to model that number. So that's like reflective of like exactly what that number means. Because a student could get 25.2 pounds of food, but then also if they're getting like 10 pounds of like hygiene stuff, or if they're getting hair care products, deodorant, toiletries, that shouldn't go into the 25.2 because that's separate. But I don't think there's anything that we're going to find where there's a metric like, oh, this is the amount of like hair care products or lotion or toilet paper that people use. So we're probably just going to like eyeball and just come up with a number that seems fair to include that.
I do remember you telling me a while ago there was a specific number, but I forgot that. That's so interesting. I didn't think about that, and now that I think about my own food intake, I think I eat a little more than that. So that's not good. Yeah. But just a couple last questions, and then I'm good on mine unless you have any questions about what I'm writing about. This is the multimedia assignment, so I'm going to be getting audio, music. It's going to be so stressful. I'm going to cut this part from.
What does it do? Just at some point before the semester's over.
I had a really good follow-up question. And I totally forgot. Students making appointment scheduling. Oh yeah. How much support do you get from students on campus in terms of like actual student donations?
So usually student donations will be through orgs. We do have a few individual students who will make donations here and there. I know we have one student, she is putting a percentage of her paycheck into our foundation account every time she gets one. I think it's like 5% or something, so it's really small, but like, it's still like the thought that counts. And so we'll usually have like individual student donations where they hear about us through a friend. But usually it's like we'll have like BSA. So last week we had an event with BSA.
What's BSA?
Black Student Association. No, you're good. And so they went out and they got like a bunch of stuff for us. They did an event. They did like a Wild 'N Out, but like Mason version of Wild 'N Out. Have you seen that show? Yeah. So they did a version of Wild 'N Out, and all their ticket proceeds went straight to buying stuff for the pantry. So they'll be delivering that by this week. And then we'll have a Work Greek Life, a Greek org will be like, hey, like we have leftover stuff from our event that we were doing, or we want to raise funds for you. How do we go about doing that? So we handle whether they want to do like donations or whether they want to do like direct cash.
Oh, you do cash too?
So if we try not to, so we have a foundation account, and it's like 501c3 certified, so if you donate to it, like it's tax deductible, but our supervisors would not like us to handle cash, so if people give us cash donations, we just take them straight to SSAC, and they handle that over there. But usually if people want to do like drives, we're like, oh, like we're going to collect money, we're just like, all right, we'll just tell you what to get, and then you can just go buy that with the money, and then we can help you get it wherever you go. But yeah, we try not to handle cash, because then you have to get into like the accounting piece, and like, is everything being tracked properly, and that's just more paperwork and logistics and things that we don't want the pantry to get caught up doing.
No, that makes total sense. And then just kind of my last noted question. What kind of goods do you look for? I've read in a couple places that canned goods, you should try to stay away from those because of how bulky they are. In terms of just like products, what would you say are some smart things to donate? Yeah.
So right now, the really big thing that I'm seeing a lot of time looking at and seeing if we can make sure we get enough of, is protein options. Because with non-perishables, you're limited to like canned beans, canned meat, and then like peanut butter, trail mix, or some variation of that. And if you have a nut allergy, there goes the peanuts and the trail mix. If you're a vegetarian, most beans have like meat used in it to like add more flavors.
Oh yeah, the fat.
And then the canned meat you can't do either. And so the real challenge is like, okay, how can we make sure that their nutritional needs are met in terms of protein options when we're kind of limited on that? And so I've been looking into stuff like protein chips, protein bars, protein shakes, like kale chips, seaweed things. So we're just looking to see what we can do to still provide like the nutritional pieces they're looking for. Because a lot of students recently, they've probably been feeling this way for a long time. They just didn't feel like saying it until recently for whatever reason. But they're like, oh yeah, you know, like I like everything in here, but I wish there were more protein options. And we've heard that like across the board from everyone like the past month or two. And so I've been making sure I've been pushing for the donors like anything that's like high in protein that's not canned beans, canned meat, or peanut butter, which pretty much does leave just the protein bars, the protein shakes, or like protein crackers, chips, anything that just like are good sources of protein. And then we have a lot of shelf-stable meals, so it's like the complete meals, the Uncle Ben's rice, the Seeds of Change rice, the Tasty Bite meals, just something you can just throw in the microwave and it's done right away. Those are nice and easy because a lot of times, so back when we had cans a lot, we had it where students were like, do you guys have can openers? And I was like, that's a good question. No, we don't. And that doesn't make sense that we don't. But even with canned food, a lot of times there is a bit of prep work to it. And students definitely have transitioned to liking more of the just grabbing. They can just get like, oh, the cereals or the pastas or the granola bars. Whereas a lot of time, and also like the concern with canned food, like, oh, like what preservatives are in it? Is it like healthy for me to be eating? Am I putting things in my body that I don't want to be putting into it? And I know sometimes the conversation when we tell people we don't want canned food is like, well, they should accept whatever they can get. And I'm like, all right, well, that's not a fair argument to make because like, would you want to eat canned foods for every single meal you have? You know? And I think, luckily most of our donors now, because we built a relationship with them, they understand like that we try to express our students' needs the best we can. Because again, we used to have a lot of canned, we just don't do that anymore because the students are like, honestly, we don't like it, we don't really want to eat that. Like, we're grateful for everything we can get, but if we could have better options, we'd like to have better options. And so we try to keep in the mindset of like making sure the pantry's like a grocery store. Like, there's always stuff in there that you want to see, and sometimes you go to the grocery store and you get stuff that you didn't plan to go get when you get there. So we try to make sure that like that's the feeling that students get when they're there, instead of saying, oh, well, like, here's the plain old canned meat that I've been having for the past month, and here's, you know, the canned bean or the canned soup that I've been having every single week. Like, let me get more of it. So we try to make sure that we diversify and have good stuff across the board. We're always open to feedback from anyone because we know we don't know everything. And like, we're always growing, always changing our clientele, different demands. We had someone who's Jewish, and so he has to have things that are kosher. And it's like canned foods. Not all canned foods are kosher, so you have to make sure they have like the right logo on them. And so now we're looking at, okay, if we're gonna look for exceptions to like kosher things, we look at like halal stuff, make sure that like we have options for everyone, and that we're not unintentionally excluding people without knowing that we are.
Again, you don't think about this until, but I did know a little bit about cans, but you really did go in. I didn't know about the protein part. I have like one last question. I seriously appreciate this so much. Thank you. With your donors, can you tell me about the top 3 to 5 things that they donate? That could be, you know, like giant like checks or, you know, clothing. Just the top 3 to 5 that you can think of.
The things that we always get a lot of are the shelf-stable meals. Like I was talking about earlier.
Shelf-stable meals.
Shelf-stable. Yeah. So like I was saying, the complete meals, Uncle Ben's rice, the Seeds of Change rice, but really Italian style entrees, Tasty Bite meals, quinoa bowls, all of that.
Huh.
Yeah. Because again, those meals are healthy, and most of the time they have a good source of protein. It's like 15 to 20 grams of protein in most of them. And like they're actually like good tasting meals. Gary and I, we try to make sure that like we at least taste the stuff that we're putting on the shelves. Because if it's not something that we would personally eat, we don't want to put something that like we wouldn't eat up there for other people to eat. just to make sure like quality wise, like okay, like this is something that we've tried and it tastes good. And if it has, and if, we always ask like, hey, like we got these new things of protein items, and so we've been experimenting with like these like protein chips or like non-GMO, no gluten, no, it has nothing in it. But like a really good source of protein is like 5 chips is like 10 grams of protein. I don't know how that works, but apparently it's really good for you. And so we've been experimenting with that. And students like, oh no, like we love these. Like we'll get a shipment of them of like 20 bags and they'll be gone in like a week. And so try to make sure that we have more of those things. Donors also bring a lot of shampoo and conditioner and body wash, and, like all your like showery care products. Just because like we've had students with like, oh, like I've never used shampoo in my hair before. And I'm like, you've never used shampoo in your hair before? But I mean, again, like if you're really like trying to like make sure like you're able to stay afloat and not be like in debt or have too many loans out, it's like, all right, why are you going to put extra stuff in your hair if you can literally just wash your hair and be fine? And so the shampoo and conditioner always goes out really quick. Same with like the body wash, body soap, just because those. To us, we're like, oh, like these are just normal items. But like to them, like they're like $15 sometimes for some shampoo or conditioner or for some body wash. So it adds up. So those shelves are always super low because students are like, y'all got body wash. So things like that are always really good. I feel like people do tend to forget about the hygiene products. I think because you think food pantry, like, okay, food. But like as we started growing, we did start to see, okay. Not only are the students lacking in the food area, but they're also like, oh, you know, like, do you guys have deodorant? Because I don't have any deodorant, and I don't want to smell funky. Can I have an interview later? So we started getting deodorant, and then people are like, oh, you know, like I haven't really been showering that much because I don't really have any showering products. So like, okay, we'll bring some of those in here. And so a lot of the like the toiletries, hygiene products section came out of this like need that we assessed from the students.
Wow, that's great. I'm going to cut it.